Hey everybody, welcome to Dying Laughing. I am your host, Jessimae Peluso. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back. If you're here for the first time, you're in the right place. I am here to relieve you of all of your sadness and bring you some joy as well. We have a few fun guests coming up, and it's going to keep on getting better and better, truly. I want to tell you all of the people that are going to be on. We're going to have Seth Rogen on, Jaleel White, Sarah Barthel from Fantagram, and probably Josh as well. Kyle Creek, who's an amazing writer and instigator, self-proclaimed instigator. But today we're kicking off a little bit of a mini-series. This is about the stages of grief, as told to us by a couple different models. One, the more popular model from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She introduced the 5 stages of grief from her book on death and dying. That was in the late 60s. And I feel like the stages of grief are, they're like a Spotify playlist. There's no clear order, complete emotional swings, and somehow Nickelback always shows up and you're okay with it. Nickelback is great for grief. I know there's probably some real Nickelback fans out there. No hate. You know, there's plenty of room for all of us in the musical space. But look at this photograph. If I heard that, and I'm looking at a photograph of Nance, I'm losing it. So Nickelback has a place in grief. It just seems like grief has more stages than all of the theaters in the world combined. There's 5 stages, there's 7 stages. So on today's episode, we're going to be breaking down all of the stages, including the stages that I went through, and doing a little compare and contrast. And I'd like to talk to whoever created the timeline. I don't think that, is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross still alive? Deb, we're going to have to Google that and see. Deb will let me know, but I'd like to talk to her because she kind of designed the timeline, and I've been stuck in bargaining for the past 4 years, and I still haven't gotten a receipt because Nancy and Joe are still dead. So I would like my money back, please, even though I didn't pay for anything. Actually, I did emotionally. I take that back. We pay for a lot emotionally when we're going through grief. So let's get into like the 5 stages of grief. That's by Kubler-Ross. She died 2004. R.I.P. She died in August 2004. So this will probably be out around the time that is her death anniversary. Maybe we can get a medium to talk to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and then she can maybe revise the stages of grief now that she's on the other side. That would be amazing. I'll call my psychic. That'll be on another episode. But she is a Swiss-American psychiatrist in the 1960s. She wrote a book based on people who were dying. And it was not necessarily for grievers. It was more for people that knew they were going to die. So the original 5 stages of grief were based on that. And then later they were adapted for grief for people who were losing someone or going through a situation in their life that caused them to feel sadness and go through an experience of loss. And I said this before we started recording. I think the most important thing, I'm not an expert, even though I'm manifesting getting more educated in this field because I feel really drawn to it. But 2, grief is not linear and it's not universal. And I mentioned that before in the episode, Are You Grieving Wrong? Because I felt weird guilt and shame around how I was living my life, going through various stages of grief on different aspects of loss, losing someone, losing a job. So I say all that to say it's not linear and it's not universal. So you do you're fine. If you're just in cotton shorts for a couple months, that's totally cool. So let's get into the 5 stages. So there's denial, anger, depression. That one hits hard. Bargaining and acceptance. So those are the original stages. And there's 7 new stages that have been adapted for people who are actually going through grief, where they kind of combined the original 5 and then added a little paprika. They're like, hey, 5 stages of grief weren't enough. We're giving you 2 more. Hey, from the makers of 5 stages of sadness come 7 stages of sadness. Just when you thought you didn't have enough grief, we're going to give you 2 more on the house. No, thank you. Where's Marshall's when you need it? Just, you know what? Marshalls, I might have mentioned this before, Marshalls should be a stage of grief. Just Marshalls. TJ Maxx, Ross, and a Home Goods. That and a little Panera? Maybe not Panera. Let's go local. Let's support a small business. But a little shopping that should be a stage of grief. We'll get into my stages of grief after that. But the new 7 stages of grief are shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and depression. Anger and bargaining, depression, an upward turn, reconstruction and work through, and acceptance. So the stages they actually added ended up being something a little bit more positive on the upswing. They even have an upward turn stage, I think, because they realized that grief isn't just sadness. Grief isn't just depression. Grief isn't just bargaining and anger. There's also this beautiful symbiotic upswing that balances it all out. It's a lot like life. The good with the bad, the dark with the dark with the light, and the yin and yang of everything. So I think that that's a encouraging addition to a very discouraging experience in life. But let's be real. I think, and I say this, and if you're going through struggle right now, maybe that's why you found this podcast. As I say this may be very frustrating, and it may be triggering for a lot of you. And it took me a long time to realize this, but struggle really is where the sweetness of life resides. Struggle gives you all of the lessons and the blessings that you need. It doesn't feel like it in the moment, but once you get through it, you're like, who is she? I survived all of this? Bring it on, but not too much. Bring it on, but also give me the upward turn and the acceptance. I'm here for that too. So just know that whatever struggle you're going through on the other side, there is something that will be and feel like a gift. It might take a while, and it might take years. But if you can hold on, I really do think that you will come to that realization. I want to go through a stage dive, if you will, of the original 5 stages of grief, like a little bit of walkthrough, And even though I really do appreciate a rebrand. Hello, this whole podcast is a rebrand. But grief doesn't care how many bullet points you give it. It's not a PowerPoint. It's an emotional mosh pit. So you have to dive in and let all of the stages push you around so that you can get through it. So denial. Denial is kind of it's like the little emotional white lies we tell ourselves to numb the sting of the truth, no matter what that is. Well, maybe they're going to text me back once their iCloud updates, or, let's put on some makeup for this Zoom memorial. I did that when my mom died. We did a Zoom memorial with everybody, and it was like some sort of haunted Brady Bunch Zoom meeting. We've talked about it before, but I'm on here with everyone on the Zoom, and it feels like some sort of corporate meeting for someone who died. Denial are these little white lies we have to tell ourselves in order to get through the initial shock. And I had, my first stage was denial. I went right into it. When I did on Sharp Tongue, when I was going through losing my mom, and I did the grief survival guide, my part 1 was denial too. So we're par for par there. Denial's they're not dead. They're just around the corner. I can pick up the phone, or I didn't just lose my job. I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's almost like the rose-colored glasses of grief and loss. And I was thinking about this today when I was hiking. I thought denial is our brain attempting to protect us. A lot of these stages are attempting to protect us from the initial shock of everything. And denial is almost one of your best friends. It's like if you were to get into a car crash, someone coming up and putting their arm around you and just walking you away. That didn't happen. Let's just turn away. Look, a Marshall's. It's just a way to sort of bat you out of the line of fire of whatever just happened. And boy, is denial important. Ooh, she's cute. Denial comes in. Let her come in. Let her come in. Let denial come in down the Nile on a boat like the goddess she is. Please give me all the numbing cream for this moment. I don't want to know what the hell just happened. A lot of us can't handle that. And where it gets tricky is a lot of us stick in this stage. and you stick in denial, and 4 years down the road, you still haven't felt all the feels that you needed to feel. And I may have mentioned this before, but a really amazing quote was gifted to me. And they said that joy is the matriarch of all emotions. And until all of her children have been tended to, she won't show up. And if you keep swimming in denial, you're not going to feel joy for a while. That rhymed. I was going to say something about a crocodile, but that had no place in it. We don't need to make it some sort of by crikey joke, okay? Let's get on to the next stage, anger. How much fun is anger? Anger's so much fun as a stage. We should have grief anger parties. Go to a bash room, go to one of those rooms where you can destroy stuff. They have like those crash rooms where you can go in and smash everything. Anger is such an underutilized and powerful emotion. And I feel like in society, and maybe in your own childhood, I know in mine, I wasn't allowed to be angry. This was an epiphany I just had. I wasn't allowed to be angry. Anytime I went to show or express anger, it was shunned, it was dumbed down, it was told to stop. And I feel like a lot of anger needs to be expressed. And if it's not, it turns into really detrimental events in society. We're seeing that. I think a lot of people are acting out, and this is not an excuse, but I think when anger is not properly exercised, it really does turn into a demon. And, you know, I yelled at a garbage truck. I yelled at a truck. I got angry at a truck. It had nothing to do with my garbage. It was completely illogical, completely crazy, maniacal anger at a garbage truck. Not even the guy driving it. I was just pissed at the truck because it was loud. You have these really irrational moments of anger, but they're not irrational. Anger needs to be expressed. And it's such an important part of grieving. I think that in society, there's a lot of shame around feeling anger, and yet there's a lot of situations that prove to us that anger is very much alive. And go to that bash room, go to the gym, go for that hard-ass jog, get a punching bag. You have to express this emotion. It needs to be expressed, or it will come out in such a horrible way, like me yelling at a garbage truck. I even think the truck driver was laughing at me yelling at the truck. Look at this crazy, and then I look crazy, and I want to be like, maybe I need to make a shirt that says, "I'm not crazy, I'm just grieving." Let me be angry. I feel like people who are grieving can just get an anger pass for the day. So on my part 2 on the grief survival guide, you know, part 1 being denial, right, head for head. Part 2 is anger. That's the second stage of grieving. My second stage of grieving on my grief survival guide was day drinking. So that's close. That's what I went right from denial to day drinking. And look, I'm not going to judge. Obviously, there's a slippery slope with a lot of people. A lot of you shouldn't be drinking, but I day drank. I got little zootsie magootsies and did things, you know, hung out, talked to birds, talked to squirrels, probably did a lot of anger cartwheels because anger gives you a lot of energy. So I was out there doing angry cartwheels, and day drinking was my second stage. I don't know if that counts as anger. And that's the thing about grief. It's not linear. So I don't think I went right into anger. I just was continuing on the denial bus. That denial bus drove me for a while. You know, if you go through something where you actually are really in love with or connected to the person or the event, denial will drive the car for a while. So let's get into stage 3. Stage 3 is bargaining. It's like, if I meditate and eat gluten, I'm going to be fine. You know, I can just have one more call with my dad, right? My dad, if I just do this, if it's that thing, it's where you're constantly going, if I do this, if I do that, the grief math never adds up. There's no amount of bargaining that's going to bring the situation to a different fruition, especially if someone's died. There's no amount of bargaining that's going to bring someone back. But let me tell you, I love a good bargain. I love a good bargain. I'm a discount shopper. Especially when it comes to grief, give me the coupon. Where Where is the sadness coupon? Because I'm ready to cash this baby in. Are you kidding me? I love a freaking bargain. I am right here for it. Stage 3 sounds like shopping for me. On my grief survival guide, this is back from both of these, all 3 of these stages on my grief survival guide was in 2020, right after I lost my mom. So my stage 3 was sadness and shopping. Close. I feel like shopping was all of the stages of grief that I experienced. I put a little bit of shopping in each one just to kind of counterbalance the actual stage I was going through. So I did sadness and shopping, and that solved a lot of my problems for the time being. That's the thing. Each stage just gets you through that immediate moment in life. It's just meant to coast you through the emotional path that you're on. So stage 4 on the original 5 stages of grief, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, is depression. Girl, I rode this one too. The only thing I was committed to in 2020 was a weighted blanket and crying in any sort of fitting room, in cotton, in pizza. I loved pizza. I lived off of Urban Pie, Pinza pizza. If you know, you know. The pie kept me alive. Depression kept me inside. Depression was real. And there's this video, I think, that exists on the internet of Jim Carrey talking about depression, and I'm sure it can be dated or traced back to some other speaker or educator. If anybody knows, shoot me an email. Where Jim Carrey's talking about depression meaning deep rest, depression, deep rest.
People talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just, from happenstance, whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or, grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me.
Right.
And so a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His name is Jeff Foster, and his take on it is that they should change. You should think of the word of depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
And I do think that because of whatever you've experienced in your life, whatever loss you've experienced, albeit a person, a job, a relationship, it's exhausting. Emotional exhaustion causes physical exhaustion. And I think depression is your body's response to all of that. So stage 4 of depression, for me, I think to counteract my depression, I went out and I socialized a little bit, because on stage 4 of our grief survival guide was with Max Lugavere, who is an educator who's very prominent in the Alzheimer's community. He has Genius podcast and Genius Kitchen, a book that teaches you how to eat healthy for brain health, because his mother passed away from Alzheimer's disease. So I think my version of depression was trying to counteract what I was really feeling and going through by reaching out and trying to hang on or communicate or socialize with somebody. But depression is real. I was only committed to cotton pizza and marijuana during that stage. And it kept me alive. It kept me cozy. I needed to feel cozy. And that's the thing about these stages, like non-linear, non-universal, but man, when you're in it, and I say this on the other side of having gone through a lot of loss, and it's probably so much easier said than done, but I say this out of experience. When you're in these stages, trust it. Trust what you're experiencing. Allow yourself to feel the denial or not feel it at all, because it's denial. And she's like, you can't feel me or see me because I'm gone, bitch. I'm here and I'm gone. Feel the anger. Express the anger. Be authentic in that. Don't be afraid of being authentic in each stage that you're going through whatever loss you're experiencing. You're only doing yourself a disservice by not being completely authentic to how you feel. You don't owe anyone anything. In fact, you're going to be a better person on the other side if you feel what you need to feel in that moment, honestly, truthfully, because that's what it takes to heal. Bargain all you need to bargain. Clip some coupons and go to the grocery store. Clip some coupons and go to the grocery store. Hang out with 80-year-olds. Get real bargaining. When you realize you're in bargaining and you're going, if I had only said this, if I had only done this, if I only got to the place a little bit sooner, if I only made that call, if I only didn't do this, if only they stayed a little bit longer, all the bargaining we do to try to adjust the outcome is killing you, but you still need to feel it. And if you have to call in some resources, do it, however you can. And the fifth stage of the Kubler-Ross model is acceptance. And let's be real, this stage is a little misleading. It should be called occasional moments of peace while you're not crying in some aisle at Trader Joe's. Acceptance comes in brief spurts, just little moments. And just like you need to feel the anger, when the acceptance comes, ride that train, baby. You don't know when the station is coming up and you have to get off that acceptance train and go back to denial, because that's how grief works. One moment you're in acceptance, the next moment you're back in depression. The next moment you're in bargaining. It is a ping pong game for your emotional state. Get a paddle, get whatever you need to get it done. Maybe a little blunt, maybe a little day wine, a little rosé, maybe a nice IPA, maybe none of those things, maybe some psilocybin, maybe completely sober. However you have to do it, grab a ping pong ball, get a racket, and play the game of emotional ping pong when it comes to the stages of grief. You're going to be in and out of them your entire life. Your entire life. So my stage 5 was hunger and jealousy. What was I jealous of? I was jealous of other people's loved ones that were still alive. That's so mean. I'm like, oh, you have a dad? Oh, you're so rich. You have a dad and a mom? Quit bragging. I'd be so mad when people had parents and they hated them, but they were alive. I'd be like, oh, Joe and Nance are dead AF, and I loved them. Even though Joey used to shake me down for 200 beans every month, and my mom would get a little spicy when she had some wine, they still were the best. So I think, me being hungry and jealous is hilarious. I was so hungry. During grief. It made me starving. I know some people starve themselves when they're emotionally stressed. But me, no. I was like, feed me. Give me all the food. So those are the original 5 stages: the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And then they revised them, being shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger and bargaining, depression, upward turn, reconstruction and work through, and acceptance. So I kept going as well. Once I realized that each stage of grief wasn't coming to me the way my intellectual brain was telling me it would. That's the other thing. You can't intellectualize emotions. If you're someone like me who lives up in their head a lot, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get down in your heart space, a lot of work to get into this heart chakra of yours and live there for a little bit. And your brain's going to try and talk you out of it because your brain wants you to survive. And it's trying to give you all the tools to avoid feeling the feelings that are causing you stress. And your brain goes into survival mode when you're in grief and all the stages of grief. So it's constantly trying to go, oh, well, let's go over here. Wait, hold on. You got to live in your emotional place. And I realized that the stages were coming left and right, lasting a day or two. And then I was elated. There was like this elation that came with grief, like almost my emotions probably helping me balance out being in cotton and having pizza grease on me for so long. The next day I'm just like loving everybody and so happy. And then I'm back in the depths of it. So on my grief survival guide, it goes on and on. I have 25 different episodes. That's all prior to Dying Laughing, available here on the same RSS feed when it was Sharp Tongue Podcast. So these are available for you to listen to. You just have to scroll down on the episodes of the podcast past Dying Laughing and you can get way down in there. But I have 25 episodes of me going through grief and each different stage that I experienced. There's fear and loafing. Bread. Bread's a hero. Bread should be a stage of grief. Carbs. Why aren't carbs a stage of grief? Hello? Sourdough? Pasta? Are you kidding me? Cheese? Cheese should be for sure a stage of grief. Each food that is your favorite, throw it in your own stage of grief. Make it your own. That's what you can do with this. That's the beauty of going through grief. You can make it your own. I did. I have stage 8 was marijuana and meditation. Stage 9, relief in the leaf, which is similar to marijuana and meditation. I guess it's more of the relief I got from meditating and smoking marijuana. Stage 10, there are a few stages where I had guests on. I had Fortune Feimster on and Ryan Sickler, where we talk about the upside of grief. I also had episode Acknowledging Your Grief with Tyler Labine, who's going to be back on this episode, who's an actor. He's from New Amsterdam and one of my favorite movies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So there is a way to sort of categorize grief for yourself and make the stages work for you. I made all of my own because I had to survive it somehow. I think that's the deal, babe. Grief is not linear. That's a whole myth. That's a myth that you are going to have to go through each of these stages at one time and you go on to the next. It's a complete myth. And we're reshaping grief each day. I think we're learning so much more. And a few people have told me, I've gotten messages where they're like, well, you shouldn't be talking about it so much. This is how we heal. This is how we get through it. I'm here to bring you joy. I'm here to be a beacon of light during whatever darkness you're going through, because grief is messy, but it's necessary and unavoidable. Completely. It is a child you're going to carry with you through the rest of your life. So you might as well take care of it. You got to take care of it. You're stuck with it forever. It's going to show up at Christmas. It's going to ruin your clothes. It's going to probably cause havoc in the house, probably cause a couple strain in your relationships. Grief is an emotional child you carry with you for the rest of your life. And I think that, there's a lot of ways that we can get through it. And I hope that some of these stages inspire you to create your own, get creative. Like I said, cry in a Marshall's fitting room, eat some cheese, eat some pizza, add that on the grief schedule. Start writing them down. Create a little diary for yourself of all the stages you're going through. And we can create our own grief stages for the future people that are going through things. And I think that can help you process it. I also want to tell you guys that I want you to send me an email. Let me know what stage of grief you're stuck in and maybe ways you're trying to cope with it. Shoot me an email at jessimaepelusocomedy@gmail.com. Also, any guests you'd like to see me interview or any other questions you have about grief or in general, shoot those at jessimaepelusocomedy@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit like on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to get the entire video, you can join my fan page at Patreon, patreon.com/Jessimae Peluso. I have the entire video unedited there, as well as unedited audio and extras available. In the next few episodes, we're going to dive into each stage individually and more about what you can do, what I did, and I'll even dive into the episodes correlating with the stages of grief. We're also going to be having those amazing guests coming on. And the 5 stages of grief are not the 10 commandments. So you can make them your own. You can make them work for you. And it's deeply personal. Grief is deeply, deeply personal, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm here for you. I'm your grief guru. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Dying Laughing. And tag me on Threads. Let me know how you're surviving today. Shoot me an email. Grief doesn't have to have rules, okay? Merch is coming soon. I'm going to have some grief merch for you guys. I'm going to add that as a stage of grief. Is there any tequila here?
This isn't a podcast about grieving, is it?